Yeah, well, substitute teaching was pretty easy because if I didn't have an audition and because in substitute teaching they like call you at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, can you come in today? And you either say yes or no, so that was simple. Except when you got like an immediate, and I would miss auditions when I was substitute teaching because I'd get a call in the morning, can you come in this afternoon at 2? And I'd go, can't.
I felt a little pressure to have a backup plan maybe going into college, just because you're trying to figure out what your major is, and you're trying to figure out if you should have a minor. And it makes sense to have a minor and to have a backup. And I never declared one. I never had a minor. So this is all I have, essentially, or it's all I trained to do, which I think is fine or great. It's also why I've worked so many customer service jobs, which I have not enjoyed one really that much. So yeah, I guess that's where pressure started. But other than that, no, I always sort of I was on the one track to wanting to do performance. So I'll work whatever jobs I have to if I can still do this. So not much pressure, no. I only feel pressure from myself when I'm eating ramen noodles again. And I'm like, maybe I should get a job that pays well. And, I don't have to eat ramen noodles all the time.
So yeah, let me tell this story. So in 2001, I was fired from a job. Honey, I'm telling all my business. You hear that? I was fired from a job. It was devastating. Again, that's not how my family rolls. You get a job and you keep that job. You don't get fired from a job. I got fired from a job. Now, granted, 2 weeks before I got fired, I went into my boss's office and was like, look, this is not the job for me. I don't think I'm doing a good job. She said, yes, you are. Anyway, she found out I wasn't. And I got fired. And I spent a lot of time some intense time doing some soul searching. Just really praying and asking God. I was about to just totally change careers. And I'm like, God, you got to tell me something. I don't know what to do. And I was crushed. I was devastated. And I remember God telling me not to get a 9-to-5. I don't know what that looks like. I don't even have a clue what that looks like, God. And so I was like, well, if this is really you, God, you have to, really let me know this is you and make it without a shadow of a doubt. And he did just that. I was at a prayer breakfast, and a minister who I never met before and I never have seen her again came up to me after service and said, I don't know if you heard what I said. And I said, yes, ma'am, I heard what you said. She said, God does not want you to have a 9-to-5. And she began to read my whole life right there. And I got in the car and I said, okay, God, now I don't have any excuse. You have been loud and clear. And I said, but what if I just got a part-time job, God? What if I just did that? He said, then you wouldn't be trusting me. So I said, okay. And I didn't have a 9-to-5 for about a year. And honestly, God bless during that year. I traveled to Switzerland performing, free of charge and got paid. Went to Jamaica, all expenses paid. Just God really blessed me during that year. And when that year winded up, I remember receiving a disconnection notice for Commonwealth Edison, which is the light company for those who don't know. Sister can't sit with no lights. And I got afraid. And I went and found me a job. In 2 weeks, I had a job. Because I knew how to find a job. I knew how to do that. I had a job in 2 weeks. And that was in 2002. And I worked a 9-to-5 until 2013. Because of fear. And it was around 2011 that I felt like God was scratching at me or picking at me again. And I said, God, did you still want me to do that? And he said, I never changed my mind. And I started making my plan to get out of corporate America. I started saving some money so I wouldn't just be flat broke. But now I don't have a backup plan per se, but I do supplement my income with standardized patient work at some of the medical schools here in the city. But God doesn't want me to have a backup plan, go figure.
Yeah, I recently left a bartending job. I've had pretty much every stereotypical actor job. I've been a nanny, I've worked restaurants, I've temped several iterations, done all of the things.
So do I have a day job? Currently, no. I don't. Thank God I don't have a day job. That's very nice. And we are a two-income family, so that helps out. But I have had day jobs off and on. I've substitute taught and done construction. And for 7 years, I worked at Starbucks. Worst 7 years of my life. Not really. The first 3 years were actually very good, and they were run very much like a, kind of a mom and pop shop, and a lot of us, my manager was a dancer, and everybody understood the biz, and we'd cover for each other, and it was all good. But as time marched on, it got more corporate and less friendly, and I really wanted to get out bad. And I said, okay, Lord, I can't quit the job because it will freak Sally out. So if you could just work in her heart somehow so that she would go, you should quit, that would be great. But until I get that from her, I know I'm stuck here. So, probably another 4 years of me saying anytime now. And I booked a couple of shows in a row, and I was getting hassled about weekends because you have 5 shows on a weekend. You got to sleep sometimes. So I'm like, I can't come in Saturday and Sunday, but I got all other 5 days. Anyway, and Sally comes up to me one day and she goes, so yesterday I was in the bedroom and I said out loud, maybe Tom should just quit. And it didn't scare me to death, so maybe you should just quit. I said, I'll be right back. And went and turned in my notice, and I haven't had a day job since. So that was many years ago.
So in terms of arranging your schedule to get to auditions, I have followed the Homer Simpson way of life of having a new job like every week, or having a new, just having a new job every week. That's not entirely true, but I've had probably 8 or 9 jobs since moving to Chicago. I've had a bunch of them. So it really depends upon which job we're talking about. Right now, for dog walking, I've had to cancel a dog walk and have someone cover it for an audition. Not a huge deal, but with auditions, you get like a day's notice, maybe 2. So that can be kind of frustrating, but it's easily coverable. Since I work here, there aren't many night auditions, and I work here at night. That's not mostly a problem. Last job I had was at Starbucks, and my boss, to his credit, was very understanding about it. I had a good boss. I remember I just took my lunch at a different time and I expanded it. So you kind of have to still make it work with your schedule. You just kind of have to move your lunch around sometimes. But I went to an audition and I came back after my break. It ended up being like a half hour longer than my break's supposed to be, but he was cool about it. But honestly, it's a pain in the butt most of the time to have to arrange because you're worried it's not going to work out, and then your agent's like, well, if you can't make it to these auditions, then why should I send them out to you? So I'm constantly like, I want my agent to know I'm available, but I also don't want to lose this actual, job I have that I need. So it's one of my not so favorite parts of this is having to organize my life in a way and keep track of everything where I don't honestly always know what a given week is going to contain. So I have to move stuff around sometimes last minute, and I'm not comfortable with that.
It's weird. I kind of have gotten to a weird spot this past year where it's actually been very, very easy to go on auditions. Normally, I used to work at Starbucks. Normally, you have to find somebody to cover for you. It's really stressful because you find out like the day before when an audition is. However, for some reason with the NCSA job that I have right now, it's very, I don't know, I email my boss and I'm like, hey, I have an audition tomorrow at 2:30. Can I pop out? Or basically if I just let him know, he's like, yeah, I just won't schedule a call for you. So he's very flexible with it, which is great because that's not always the case. So So right now it's great, but usually it's very stressful.